Wildcats. Today we're looking at Friday, January 11th, factoring and completing the score on page 41. If you would, update your table of contents. All right, now your table of contents are updated. Let's take a look at our notes. Factoring and completing the score on page 41. Solve quadratic functions by factoring or completing the square steps. Step 1, factor the equation. Step 2, if the equation is not factorable, then complete the square. Step 3, solve for x. All right, now your notes are updated. Let's take a look at our examples. All right, example 1. So step 1, we factor the equation. So we're going to do that using the reverse box method. So first term, 1x squared. Last term, 20. Middle term, negative 12x. Now, the first thing we need to do is find all the combinations to make 20. Okay, so we know because the last number is positive and the middle number is negative, both numbers have to be negative. So negative 1 times negative 20 is 20. Negative 2 times negative 10 is positive 20. Negative 3 doesn't work. Negative 4 times negative 5 is positive 20. And then negative 5 times negative 4 is positive 20. Okay, so now we need to find all the combinations, or not all, the one combination makes negative 12. So negative 1 minus 20 is negative 21. Negative 2 minus 10 is negative 12. There's our combination. So we know our factors are x minus 2 and x minus 10. Now we actually want to multiply with the box method to make sure this works. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. Negative 10 times x is negative 10x. Negative 10 and negative 2 combined to be negative 12. So the factored form of this is x minus 2 times x minus 10 and we're going to set those equal to 0 and solve. Okay, so x minus 2 equal to 0 and x minus 10 equal to 0. Okay, so we add 2 to both sides, so x equals 2. Add 10 to both sides, x equals 10. All right, let's take a look at example 2. All right, so first thing you want to do is draw your box. So first term, 1x squared. Last term is negative 2. Middle term is negative 9x. Okay. Now we need to find all the combinations to make negative 2. Well, that's 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. And 2 times negative 1 equals negative 2. Now we combine to see if we can get negative 9. Well, 1 minus 2 is negative 1. And 2 minus 1 is 1. Neither of these combinations makes negative 9, so we say that this is not factorable. All right, at the point that it's not factorable, then we move on to step 2. If the equation is not factorable, then complete the square. So to do that, we're going to factor out a 1 from the first two terms. And actually, even before that, let's just write the equation. So x squared minus 9x minus 2 equal to 0. Now, before we do anything else, we only need to work with these two terms. So we need to move the negative 2. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. So that's x squared minus 9x equals a positive 2. Now we can complete the square here. Okay, so then I'm going to factor out a 1 from both terms. That leaves x squared minus 9x We leave space here for the completing the square part, equal to 2. Now we're going to take negative 9 divided by 2 and square it. But if you add something to one side of the equation, you have to add it to the other because of equality. Okay? And just a side note, what I mean by that is if you had 5 equal to 5, well, that's a true statement. But if I add 3 here, well, that's not true now. But if I add 3 over here, now it's true. And that's basically what I've done here. Okay? All right. So now that's 1x squared minus 9x. Now, negative 9 divided by 2 squared is plus 20.25 equals 2 plus 20.25. Now, we can factor this because we've created the factor by this, which is negative 9 divided by 2 is negative 4.5. So we can ignore the 1, so we just have x minus 4.5 times x minus 4.5, which equals 22.25. Now this is just x minus 4.5 squared, which equals 22.25. Square root both sides, so you get x minus 4.5 equals the square root of 22.25, which is plus or minus 4.7. No, in essence, let's leave it as one decimal place, 4.7. The reason why I'm going to leave it as one decimal place is because that's one decimal place. Okay, so now I'm going to run out of space. I'm going to move the work here. Okay, so we add 4.5 to both sides, but we have to do it with 2. So we have x equals a positive 4.7 plus 4.5, and we have x equals negative 4.7 plus 4.5. Which is x equals 9.2 and x equals negative 0.2. All right. So now let's move on to example 3. All right, example 3. Now it looks like we could try to move the 12 over and try to factor and solve, but I'd argue that it looks like it's already in the place where we can complete the square. So let's do that. So we're going to factor the 2 out from both terms. So that's 2, 1x squared plus 4x equal to 12. And again, I've left space because we're completing the square. So now I divide 4 by 2 and square it. But what I add to one side, I have to do the other. But I'm actually not adding just that. I'm adding it 2 times that. So I have to add plus 2 times 4 divided by 2 squared. So then that's 2, 1x squared plus 4x plus 4 divided by 2 is 2, 2 squared is 4, equals 12 plus 2 times 4. Okay, now this is 2. We factor this, which is x plus 2 times x plus 2. And we know it's plus 2 because 4 divided by 2 is 2. And then 12 plus 8 is 20. So now we know that this is 2 times x plus 2 squared equals 20. We're going to divide both sides by 2. So then that's x plus 2 squared equals 10. Now we take the square root of both sides. So then that's x plus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 10, which is 3 let's just do one decimal place, 3.2. Now we need to subtract 2 from both sides. Okay, so that's x equals negative 2 plus 3.2, and x equals negative 2 minus 3.2. So x equals 1.2 and x equals negative 5.2. All right, now let's take a look at example 4. All right, now here what I'm seeing is I see the 3x squared on one side. If I move the 24x on this side, I could probably complete the square and leave the 27 alone. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to subtract 24x from both sides. So that's 3x squared minus 24x equals 27. Okay, so now I can factor 3 from both sides, so that, or from both terms. So that's 3, 1x squared minus 8x. Leave space for completing the square, equal to 27. Now I'm going to add negative 8 divided by 2 squared. But if I add it to this side, I have to add this side, but I can't forget about multiplying by 3. So plus 3 times negative 8 divided by 2 squared. So then that's 3, 1x squared minus 8x plus negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 squared is 16 equals 27 plus 3 times 16. And then that's 3. We know the factors because negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. So x minus 4 equals 27 plus 3 times 16. Is 75. So now we know that this is 3 times x minus 4 squared equals 75. Divide both sides by 3. So that's x minus 4 squared equals 25. Take the square root of both sides. So that's x minus 4 equals plus or minus 5. So then that's x. We're going to add 4 to both sides. So that's 4 plus 5, which equals 9. And x equals 4 minus 5, which equals negative 1. All right, if you would, finish up your examples and start working on your assignment and have a wonderful Wildcat day.